Hello, I'm Luke. Welcome back to 100 Days of SwiftUI. I've had a bit of a break where I didn't have internet access at all, but now I'm back on day 9, looking at closures. Now I'm going to do the test for creating basic closures. There's a function sign autograph with a variable name, which is a string, referred to externally as 2, and it prints out 2, name, my #1 fan. And it refers to it externally by 2, so this looks valid to me. Oh, not a closure. Oh, it's whether the closure is valid. Oh, okay. Paint picture. Yeah, it's only got it looks like it's missing something. Yeah, the equals. Okay. Okay, this looks valid. This looks valid too. Yep, this looks valid. It's got the equals and the closure. Okay, this one it's not calling let or var, so this is not valid. This is not valid. It doesn't have the equals in front of the closure. Yep, this looks valid. It's got the equals, it's got the closure, and it's as a var, so that's true. It's not case sensitive. Okay. It is case sensitive. Sorry. This looks valid. It's got the equals and the closure. All right. This when you call something with the parentheses, it calls it like a function. So this is not a valid closure. It's got the equals and the closure. That looks good. Got the equals and the closure. That looks good. Okay, mostly right. That's all right. Let's go on to the next one. Now I'm going to do accepting parameters in a closure. Okay, so is this code valid Swift? So it's got the equals and the closure. It's in a var. It's got the name and string in parentheses, and it's got in, and then the statements. It's got the variable. It's got the parameter, but it's called in the closure, so I don't think it needs it. So I think that's valid. Okay. Okay. Send message equals and then the closure. Message type string. And it's got in. It's not actually showing it being called, but as far as the closure, it looks correct. Okay, we have the variable and the equals and the closure. It takes a button, an int called button, and it's got in. Yes, this looks correct. Okay, it's not calling the var or let before the print document, so this is not a valid. Okay, it's got var share winnings equals and the closure. It's got the amount of type double, and it's got in. Okay, it's saying it's a type double, but it's passing in a string, so that's not valid. Okay. We have a var pick fruit, and it's equals, and then the closure. It's got a string called name. It's got in. It switches on the name. Yep, that looks valid. They're not surrounded by quotes. Okay. Okay, we've got a let, calculate result equals, and then the closure. It's got just it's got int, but it doesn't actually say that it's called answer. So that's not valid. Okay, we've got a let, fixed car equals, and then the closure. It's got a string called problem. It's got in. Yeah, that looks valid. Okay, we've got let, make reservation equals, and then the closure. It's got an int called people. It's got in. Yep, that looks valid. Okay, we've got a variable cut grass equals, and then the closure. So refer to a double, refer to externally by length and internally as current length. And it's got in, and it switches on current length. Yeah, that looks good. Oh, closures can't use external parameters. Okay. Let watch TV equals closure, and it's got a string called channel. I'm going to watch some channel. All right, it's calling it with an underscore, which isn't going to be valid. Okay, let rowboat equal, and then the closure. It's got an integer called distance. Yep, it's passing in an int. That looks valid. Okay, a couple wrong, but we're getting there. Okay, now I'm going to look at the tests for returning values from a closure. Okay, so we've got a variable fly drone, and it's got a equals and a closure. It takes in a boolean called has permit, and it returns a boolean. It returns true if has permit is true, and false if has permit is false. That looks valid. Okay, let shovel snow equals and the closure. Okay, it's only got the variable name there, but it doesn't have the variable type, so that's not valid. Okay, let measure size equal and then the closure. It takes in an integer called inches and returns a string. So it's switching on inches. And it's passing in an integer. That looks all good. Okay. Okay, there's a function call number. Oh, instead of using let or var, it's actually trying to define a function which you'd use a parenthesis for. So I don't think this is valid. Yeah. Okay, let go surfing equal and then the closure. We've got an integer called wave height and it returns an integer. Okay, it's returning an integer, but all of these returns are for strings, so that's not valid. Okay, we've got a var difficulty rating equals and the closure. It takes in a string called trick and it returns an integer. Okay, it's doing an if else on the trick. That should be valid. Returns an int. And it's just going to print the int. Okay, let convert numerals equal and then the closure. It takes in a string called numeral and returns a string. So these are switching on the string and returning a string. So yeah, this should print out the number 2. It needs a default. Okay. Okay, we've got a variable called go to work equals and then the closure. Takes in a string called hours and returns a boolean. Okay, at the end it returns true. It doesn't actually, it prints some statements, but doesn't do much. So that's okay. Oh, so it takes in hours, which is a string, but it's actually trying to get an int there. So that's not going to work. That's false. Okay, we have a var cost to shoot movie equals and then the closure. Takes in a string called location and it returns an int. So it's checking for location. It's returning an int. Yep, this looks valid. Okay, let write essay equal and then the closure. It takes in a string called topic and it returns a string. So and it just returns string on blah 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 topic. Yep, this looks valid. Okay, var by magazine equals and then in the closure we've got a string called name and then it returns an int. Okay, so it's going to return 10 every time. Oh, it's trying to call the closure with a variable name. It should just be wired, not name colon wired. So that's not valid. Okay, let bake birthday cake equal and then the closure. It takes in a string called name and it returns an int, and it's got in print. I've made a cake for name. Here's the bill, and it returns 50. So it returns the int. Yeah, that looks valid. Okay, only one wrong. Getting better. All right. Okay, now I'm going to do the test for shorthand parameter names. So which of these statements is true? Shorthand parameters are written as $0 and $1. That's true. Yeah, if there's only one line of code, you can skip writing the return. That's true. Swift does automatically provide the dollar variables. That's like automatic. And that's not true, so it's definitely option 1. You don't list the parameters you accept, so that option 1 is true. Swift can infer the return type. That is true. Swift can infer the parameters that's accepted. That's true. And it's more than just integers. That's not true. So it's definitely option 1. Okay, that was all good. Okay, now I'm going to do the test for closures as parameters. So we've got a variable Swift, and it's got a closure, and a function write code, and it's using language, which is going to be a function that returns void, and it calls language. And from what I can tell, that does look valid. Swift var. Oh, it doesn't have the equals. Okay. Okay, var play with dog equals fetch, and it's got function play using play type, and it's got it doesn't accept any parameters and returns void, and the function returns a string. So the function isn't actually returning anything, it's only printing something, so that's not valid. Okay, we have make from straw equals, and then the closure, and the function build house, and it's using building style. It's not calling building style with the parentheses there, so I don't believe that's valid. Okay, let awesome talk equal and the closure. Function deliver talk takes in a string called name and a closure called type. Prints out my name, and it calls type, which is going to call awesome talk. I'm not sure if that needs the parentheses or not. Guess we'll find out. So I'll say that's true. Okay. Okay, we have let spawn dive equal and the closure, and a function perform dive. It's got a closure called dive, referred to externally as type. Yeah, that looks valid. Okay, we've got helicopter travel equal and the closure, and a function travel by. Travel means is a closure. print, let's go on vacation, buy and travel means. Okay, it's referring to it externally as buy. Yeah, that looks valid. Okay, let equal robot equal and a closure, and a function build robot, and versatility, it has a closure. Um, okay, it has the parameters named personality there, but it's calling it using, which isn't valid. So I'd say this one's false. Okay, we have a variable go on bike equal and the closure, a function race, and it's using vehicle type equal a closure. So it'll be called using the using variable. Yeah, it's referred to as vehicle type, so that looks valid to me. Okay, we have a variable pay cash equals and then the closure. A function by close, it takes in a string called item, and a closure called payment, referred to externally as using, and it's calling payment with parentheses. And when by close is called, it's got the item jacket, and using will be pay cash. Yep, that looks valid from what I can see. Okay, let resignation equal and then the closure. Takes in a string called name. And a function print document. And it contains a closure called contents. Okay, and it's calling print document with the closure resignation as the contents. From what I can tell, that looks good. Oh, because it takes the string. Okay. Okay. All right, we have let drive safely equal and the closure, a function drive, and it's using driving, which is a closure. Okay, it's called using drive safely. Yep, that looks valid. Oh, it's returning a string. Right. Okay, we have a variable learn with unwrap, and it equals the closure. And a function learn Swift, and it's got a variable called approach, referred to externally as using, and it returns and it's a void. It's a closure. And it's called learn Swift using learn with unwrap. That looks good. Okay, so a couple wrong there, but we're getting there. Now we're going to do the test for trailing closure syntax. So if a function hold class takes in a name, a string called name, and a closure called lesson. So in the function, it prints the lesson, and then it's called using a string. Oh, it's not actually naming the string with name, so that's not valid. Okay, we have a function phone friend. It takes in a closure called conversation, and it runs the conversation in the function. And we have phone friend, but it's not actually it's just a variable name and a couple of print statements. That's not valid. Okay, we have a function do tricks and a closure called tricks. And it's referred to externally without a parameter name. Yeah, I think this is valid. Okay, we have a function 10 garden and a closure called activities. So it'll say I love gardening and then run the activities. And we've got the 10 garden. So it's a function, but it's not actually calling the function with the parentheses. So yeah, that's not valid. Oh, that is valid. Okay. Okay, function make cake. And it takes in a closure called instructions. Oops. Um, yeah, that looks valid. Here we have the function brute, and we have steps. It's just got the parentheses there and doesn't say return void, so that's not valid. Okay, we have the function assemble toy, which takes in a closure called instruction. Oh, it's instruction there, but instructions with an S there, so that's not valid. Okay, we have a function knit sweater, takes in a closure called then. Okay, it's called then there, but it's called action. It's calling action, so that's not valid. Okay, we have a function repeat action, takes in an integer called count, and a closure called action. So it's doing count as an int, so that's okay. Okay, so it's got the count as an int, so that's good, and it's got the trailing closure, so that should be valid. Okay, we have a function clean, and it returns a closure called tasks. Takes in a closure called tasks. All right, it's actually got square brackets, not curly brackets, so that's not going to be valid. Okay, we have a function go camping with a closure called action, referred to externally as then. I think the then is going to make this not valid because it's not using then, so I say this is false. Oh, that is. Then why have the then there? That doesn't make sense. Okay. So we've got a function go on vacation, and it's to and destination string, and it's got a closure called activities. Okay, that looks valid. Okay, a couple wrong, but learning more and more about it. All right, now I'm up to checkpoint 5. Our input is an array of integers called lucky numbers. Our job is to filter out any numbers that are even, sort the array in ascending order, map them to strings in the format 7 is a lucky number, and print the resulting array one item per line. All right, let's get started with a playground. And call it checkpoint 5. Now our lucky numbers. Are 7, 4, 38, 21, 16, 15, 12, 33, 31, and 49. Right, so let's create a variable called lucky. And first thing we want to do is filter out any numbers that are even. So we'll get our lucky numbers and we're going to filter. So we want, let's open up a closure, and it's going to be our variable is multiple of 2. And we actually want to filter out the even numbers, so we're going to do a not. That'll give us all the odd numbers. Next, we have to sort in ascending order, so that'll be sorted. And by, we're going to do ascending order, so that would be our first variable is less than the second variable. And then we need to map them to strings in a format 7 is a lucky number. So map. And we're going to print. And we'll put in the variable is a lucky number. Okay. Give it a go. 15 is a lucky number, 21 is a lucky number, 31 is a lucky number, 33 is a lucky number, and 49 is a lucky number. All right, I think that's it for that one. If you want to follow along, the link is in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.